I'm going to read a little bit from Master Review on self-compassion supports the way through water. Illogically, we humans fall into a vortex by taking our setbacks personally. Self-blame or self-sabotage for undesired results delay the outcomes you want. The watery emotion of self-compassion is a better way to heal the gap between who you are and who you want to become. Studies in self-compassion, growth mindset, and the benefits of failure clearly point to a better way to approach pressing and chronic issues. A study on self-compassion focused on first-year students navigating the college transition. Students who reported higher levels of self-compassion felt more optimistic, energetic, and alive during their first semester of college, increasing in tandem their levels of motivation and engagement. Self-compassion enhances the psychological traits of autonomy, competence, and relatedness, which in turn enrich well-being. This self-sufficiency mirrors the yogi's emphasis on shifting your awareness from limitation into potentiality. Engaging issues head-on with self-compassion, honesty, and optimism is the name of the game for lifelong learners on the path to their next breakthrough. Releasing fear or frustration into the healing power of water is self-compassion in action. All right, we could talk volumes about this. It's an important part for you right now just to realize, like, where is this true and what actions help you become more self-compassionate? Sometimes just listening and talking about this can be super helpful. One of the things that Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach, he talks about is focusing, here we are on our growth journey, and we have these milestones. And sometimes what we do is we focus on the gap, if we're here now. Focus on the gap between where we want to be and where we are, which is right here, right now. What's healthier is to actually focus on the gain. And yet, if you're like most humans, your awareness is more tuned in to the gap than the gain. Gay Hendricks talks about this in his book, The Big Leap. He talks a lot about how because of the reptilian brain, our brain is actually trained to fear the unknown. And fear is a stronger emotion. It gets our attention more than all of these great emotions back here, feeling motivated, of feeling engaged, of feeling autonomous, of feeling competent, of feeling compassionate to whatever's arising on your journey towards the vision of your next self, as you're going through your seasonal milestones, as you're dealing with the tasks that are showing up in your project management tool, as you're recalibrating your calendar to what's really most important. There's a lot of issues that are going to come up. And so the more we can understand the role of self-compassion, that it tunes us into the gain, where we can actually turn our head and look back. We can look back to where we've come from, and we can celebrate those wins, and we can also celebrate all those like hard things that we had to do along the way. And when we do that, we actually own our own competence. We embody our own competence. We said, hey, I'm standing here now. I did that. And because of that, I can actually relate to people that are struggling with, say, a particular section of it. Say there's a particular little crux in there that was really freaking hard. And maybe in there was a bit of an emotional breakdown where you thought, I can't do it. There's no way. The gap between where I am and where I want to be is too great. I clearly don't have the skills. I don't have the resources. I don't have the aptitude. I don't have the competency. I can't do it, right? And you can obviously see I've been there. I've been there many a time. When we're able to pause and look back, and you did this in your SWOT, in your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, your accomplishments, lessons learned, You got conditioned to actually look back and say, hey, like, who are you now? What tools do you have now? At any point in the journey, we can just pause and we can say, hey, what little things have I done? Maybe I've shifted a few things around in my calendar where I'm taking more ownership of my time. Maybe I've aligned some things in my body rhythm so that my day-to-day is lined up more with the circadian rhythm, and I'm feeling more supported by the rhythms that are part and parcel of living here on planet Earth in a mammalian human body, right? Maybe you've made some gains even in just having more space between activities, or more time to just exhale before you go into the next thing. Perhaps you look at the tasks in your project management tool and you see, wow, I actually got these things done, instead of, oh my gosh, I have all of these things left to do. So what we know from self-compassion is that we want to start to focus on the gain while being conscious of what is the path ahead, what is on the road ahead, and where might the going get tough in the future. When we're able to own all of the things that we've done from the gain in order to get here, what happens is this fear of the unknown, it starts to dissolve. And what starts to happen is you actually start to be able to extend from a grounded place into the unknown. And you're able to do that because you've become more competent, because you're more motivated, because you're grounded in your own autonomy, that you are free. You're free to design where you step next into your life. You're autonomous in who you choose to connect with, who you choose to relate to, what you choose to engage in. And all of these are ways that you can increase your self-compassion. I have seen so much, especially on the business journey and helping other people on their success journeys, whether those are financial or relational or health. What I have seen so much is that those that focus on the gap, and often this has a tendency in perfectionism, right? Where there's something that we're aspiring to that is impossible to ever reach. And what happens is often quite a bit of I'll call it self-berating, where there's negative self-talk, where there's always the holding the self up against the ideal and never measuring up. Now, this is an ego strategy in spirituality. It can be termed that way, where actually your ego is creating the idea of the perfection. Your ego is creating the voice dialogue of negativity that is self-berating. And every time you do that, every time you're stuck in a thought pattern like that, or that interior voice in your head, you're actually engaging more with that fear of the unknown, and you're less capable of even stepping into the person that you want to be next. Instead, focusing on self-compassion, right? And the reason I drew these words out is because I just want you to get familiar with, like, oh, these are the experiences of being in self-compassion. Is I'm plugged in, and being plugged in, I'm motivated. I'm engaged in what I want to do. I'm not checking out. I'm not checking into eating too much or drinking too much or doing things that aren't in alignment with my overall well-being of who I said I wanted to be next. Not from a perfectionistic place, but from, again, an autonomous place, from the place where you get to choose. You get to choose what you do with your time, where you plug in your attention and your energy. And the more you do that, the more you become competent, right? And in this competence, you start to be able to plug even deeper into motivation, because you're like, wow, I can actually do more than I thought I can do. And the other thing that happens is you become able to relate to other people. I have found so much over time with this is I become much more open to asking other people questions of, like, hey, I'm stuck right here. And because I'm stuck here, and I know you've been there, can you help me out? And it's not coming from a place of, I need to be someone that I'm not. It's coming from a place of, hey, if I'm honest, this is where I'm at right now, and I don't know how to do this, but I can see that you do. Can you help me? And we're much better at finding the help that we need and asking for that help, because we're in the field of being able to relate. And we're also so much more compassionate to someone who's right in that crux that we were at before, and able to say, like, oh, yep, Don't beat yourself up. I've been there. That's just a lesson you need to learn. There's some skills that you need to gain. Let's look particularly at what skills that might be for you and get you going on your way. All right, so that's just a little bit on self-compassion and well-being. As far as how to make this actionable for yourself, you want to look back and say, hey, thus far in this course, what's the gain? What's actually shifted? And for you to just take a moment and feel that, to actually stand on your own 2 feet. I do these images of people like that are super grounded in their combat boots. Like stand on your own 2 bare feet or in your own 2 shoes with your feet on the ground and own the gain. So energetically let yourself feel all that you have accomplished. Let that in, because as you let that in, energetically, you're digesting any of that fear of the unknown. You're literally digesting it by feeling in the positivity of what you've done, that you have the power of autonomy. And from that place, you can feel your own motivation that says like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can even become more than I am right now.